Welcome to another session of Homeschool Lounge. Today we're going to talk about how does home education differ from going to school? And we'll talk about the practical things. Many parents who are considering home education or are new to the journey often wonder what a day, week, month in a home education family look like. Is it very different from a school day? And how should I schedule my day? Should I have periods with a bell that ring at break time? To answer these questions and more, I have Shirley, Erwee and Chirani Meyer joining me today. Shirley, please tell us a bit more about a morning routine.
All right, my approach is that homeschooling is best if it's not a replication of school at home. So in our home and in other people's homes, I advise not to have a highly structured schedule because trying to stick to that usually sucks the joy out of this whole family experience. So we're very much more relaxed and it's much more flexible. There isn't this mad morning rush to get everybody ready for school and lunch boxes packed and books in bags and uniforms all over the place like I can remember from my school days. So we're a late starting family. We often will still be in bed by 8 o'clock, especially in winter. There is a new commandment. In winter, thou shalt not get up before the sun, just in case anybody didn't know it. And so our school day generally, yeah, our school day in winter and most of the year, we sort of get up, do chores, tidy up, have some breakfast or coffee, and then at about 9, it's the time to get the formal part of our learning done. So my children do some of their formal lessons, their maths workbooks, English workbooks, Afrikaans workbooks in the morning. And we do a lot of reading aloud together to learn about other subjects. And then sort of by 12 o'clock, 12:30, everybody's hungry again for lunch, and the formal school day kind of falls apart because after lunch, some of them go off to sport and I've got to go and do errands or, then we all do different things. So we try and keep the morning the time that we are together, but it's quite relaxed. How do you do it, Chirani?
Very similar to you. We wake up not too early, and then we're normally out of bed by 8:30, and we start between 8:30 and 9, and then chores are done, breakfast has been eaten, and then we have Bible study, and after that we start lessons. We normally only do about 2 subjects a day unless we're doing maths. We need a whole day for maths, actually just for my sake, not for theirs. And then after that, we have lunch, and then it's extramurals. Pretty much the same.
Because Shirani, you actually touched on one of my questions I had. How do I know how many subjects to do a day? And is it like school? I have a 30-minute period, and then I move on to the next subject. What do we do?
Well, at school, you need to have 30-minute periods to be able to structure a day for a whole group of children. But at home, because of the one-on-one interaction between child and teacher, you don't really need that. And you have the luxury of being able to let the child really get their teeth sunk into a subject. So I like to keep it to 2 subjects a day. And it normally takes a whole morning just for 2 subjects. But I know by the end of that morning, my kids have really been thoroughly immersed in the subjects. And they've enjoyed it. It's so frustrating when you sit in the classroom, let's say history class, and there's something interesting the teacher's talking about, and you're just getting into it, and the bell rings, and off you go to a class you don't like. It's really rains on your parade. So being able to do homeschooling where you can give the child the freedom to really explore a topic and, live themselves into it. Really encourages deep learning, not just superficial knowledge, acknowledgements of certain facts and then off to the next bunch of facts that need to be shoved into your head.
Yeah, I know my son also always begs for another history lesson because he loves the stories. Shirley, how would you?
I was just going to say that I found that with young children, their concentration spans are quite short. So when they're learning to read and first doing maths and those kind of things when they're small, I found that it was quite good to just aim to do short lessons of about 20 minutes at a time and then give the child a break. But with older kids, obviously, if they're engrossed in something, I let them carry on. And, by the time my kids are teenagers, they actually have to take responsibility for getting their work done. And I'm just supervising. So you can be very flexible. Sometimes we do keep lessons short, and like you guys were saying, if we're enjoying something, especially read alouds, we can just carry on until we have to stop.
Yes. How does learning methods and materials differ from what we have in school?
You go, Chirani.
Well, some people like to use the school curriculum and try and homeschool with that. I must say, I have found that many moms who've chosen that that approach have found it very frustrating, because the school curriculum is designed to help a teacher give information to a large group of children in a limited amount of time. And when you try that at home, it doesn't always fit, because the teacher and child interaction is different, the environment is different. And I normally find that people who do start off with a school curriculum like to change to a more homeschooling friendly approach. I find it a lot more stimulating and a lot less stressful. So what we started off with was a curriculum called Konos, and we really enjoyed it because it is based on experiential learning, where you actually learn about a topic and then you experience the topic. And for instance, one of the lessons were based on character building, and the character trait they were talking about was service. So we learned about horses and how horses serve man, and we learned about the anatomy of the horse, and we learned about how horses helped people during the wars, and we learned about Red Black Beauty, and we saw movies about horses. And then after that, we went to a stable, and the children got to taste the food that the horses eat, and they got to groom the horse, and they got to ride the horse, and they got to see the horseshoes and how it works, and they lifted up the hoof of the horse, and they saw the place called the Frog, which I thought was very funny. And I tell you, after that, all that book knowledge became real and relevant to them, and that's the kind of learning that saturates deep into a child, and they'll never forget it. Compared to doing 50 worksheets on a horse and horses through history, I think the experiential learning experience is a much richer way of learning and being able to teach children.
Another phrase many new to homeschooling hear is deschooling. Shirley, how would you define that and maybe explain it a bit more?
I like to compare it to detoxing from unhealthy foods. So often when people are starting out homeschooling, they need a couple of months to kind of unlearn and relax from the usual school routine. And during this time, we recommend that they don't do any formal lessons with their children, but just treat it as though it was a holiday and encourage them to find things that they like to do. You know, they say boredom is the mother of creativity. So if you don't let your children just watch TV or just be on YouTube vegging out, they eventually find things to do. They'll start new hobbies, or they'll work in the garden, or they'll start to cook and bake, or want to go to the library and get books. And during that time, it's actually quite a learning experience for the parent, because suddenly they get to know their child on a new level. Deschooling is also important for children who emotionally haven't had a pleasant experience at school. They need to discover that they actually can learn, and they're not stupid, and they need to sort of drop the labels that they've been given. And when they're not forced back into school at home, but they can now discover that there are things that they can learn and pursue that they're interested in a relaxed, fun way, it often is a very healing time for them. And during that time, the parents can then also do some more research on homeschooling, because there's so much to learn. There's such a mind shift for us to make as first generation homeschooling parents, because all we know is the school with a teacher and a blackboard and a textbook and worksheets and then exams, and you know, that's not the system we recommend at home.
Great, this was a very informative session. In our next session, we'll talk about some of the intangible differences.